All right, all right. So, if there's anyone watching the stream right now, let me know if you can hear me.
I can't hear shit.
You can't. Yeah, you can't. This guy. So we got the thinker in the house. I had to. My wife has 911 on speed dial for police, just in case if he decides to rob me. And we're live on stream. We're live. See what I mean? This guy from New York. See, I don't trust you New Yorkers, man. I really don't. All right. So I guess this is how we're going to do this. So I should have made some adjustments earlier and making this a little bit wider, but we're good. All right, so mic check. This is a test. If you're watching the stream, let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. You can give me a thumbs up in the chat. And also, we're going to do another mic test with the thinker. And then we're going to get right into it. And he's going to introduce himself. And then we're going to get into the discussion. So, mic check. Let me know if anyone can hear me out there.
This one's on too?
Yeah, so all you have to do is just tap it at the top.
All right, check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
And as you can see, we're walking the Day One Boys shirts down here. Yes, it was cold down here in the back cave, but it is getting a little warm. But hey, representing, right? So make sure you got.
I've been waiting for this for like 9 months. God damn, and you can't even get my size right. Look at this.
What are you talking about? That's the right size.
Man,
that is the right size, right? Look at all that room.
You see how slim I am, man? Look at this. This is like a bed sheet.
Hey, I didn't know that. Hey, my man said, hey, these are the sizes, man. Get me those size. That's what I did.
I'm in my fighting weight now, man. This is like my 3-year ago weight. Well, this is my COVID weight right here. This is when I was just chilling on the couch eating potato chips. Ever since then, I'm in my fighting weight. You see it?
No.
Think this is?
No, those are those grapes you were eating. Those are grapes. That's that grape weight right there.
By the way, I think my wife is watching this and my son.
Oh,
you better have my grapes when I get home.
Oh.
I got Chinese for waiting.
Now she's gonna get me, man.
Nah, she
gonna you gonna allow him to use your platform to do this? Okay,
I'll protect you.
DC, what's up, man? Welcome back. Let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. We're gonna do some mic checks. Make sure everything is good to go. Oh, she's on, dude. Oh my goodness. Genie in the bottle is on. Oh, I have nothing to do with this genie. It's just all his fault. Oh man, she's like, you want to die tonight? Oh, you talking about me?
We actually got the good grapes at home too.
Everything sounds good. So I sound good. What about you? I mean, can you guys hear the thinker?
Yeah. No? Can't hear me?
No. The thinker. She said the thinker. What's going on, Jeannie? How is it going? It's been a long time. I'm glad you're able to join the Gaming Interactions podcast here. I'm pretty sure you know this guy here. He tried to rob me, coming through the door, but, he just couldn't handle the pressure. So I was like, look, I don't like you New Yorkers. You need to know where you're at and relax. So he calmed down. He's good. He's good right now. No fraud, one time for you. Oh man. Oh, so okay. So are we exposing? Are we okay? Here's Jeannie. Here's what I've been hearing. Okay, the thing could be talking like, yo, he's like this Greek god, Paul's. He be laying on the couch and, you be feeding him grapes and you be calling him master, bowing down and all kinds of stuff. I mean,
I don't know about all that.
Is any of that true? That's what he was telling me. That's what he was sharing with me. So I was like, wow, man, that's crazy. And I even told him, I was like, I wish I can get that here.
You're more worried about getting your food poisoned, man.
Exactly.
You got death by 1,000 cuts.
Yes.
All right. It ain't gonna hit you overnight, man. Watch. It's just slowly going on, man.
Oh man. So again, we got the thinker in the house. This is the Gaming Reaction Podcast. We was having some technical issues earlier. We had to cut the stream.
I told you to upgrade your AARP internet, didn't I?
He did. So I'm working on that. I do have the fastest router internet speed, but he did give me some advice. So I am working on that. So my AARP internet is coming. So don't you guys worry. It's gonna be fabulous. Watch what happens. So without further ado, actually before we get into our discussion, if you like what we do here at Gaming Reactions, make sure you subscribe, turn on the notification bell and all so that you know when we go live. Also follow us out on Twitter at Game Reactions 40. And if you are a subscriber to the channel and you follow us out on Twitter, you automatically enter into any of the giveaways that we do here on the channel. And also, if you want your Day One Boys merch, not just the hoodies, we got t-shirts and we have some other merch as well. You can go to jasmine-karen.com.
Get that merch, yo.
Get that merch. So let's go ahead and we're gonna try this again.
So I think we should just go back and just revisit what we talked about, because I know some people probably didn't get the full audio.
Right. So I'm gonna give the thinker the floor. And
well, start it off with the question. What's the topic of discussion?
Well, I'm gonna allow him to introduce himself. Let's just go ahead with that then. So,
yeah, people don't need to know me.
You know,
I'm a nobody. They don't care.
I mean, they're gonna want to know a little bit about your background. You know, there's a reason why I have him here, because what I shared with you guys before, if you was in one of my past streams, that this guy here has a lot of insight. I don't want to give you guys a little too much. I'll let him share with you guys a little bit about himself. But what we was going to discuss today, what's currently in the news, with the whole Microsoft ABK deal, which is come to a conclusion. So it's a big win for Microsoft and gamers, and also one of the elephants in the room is Sony signing a deal with Microsoft for Call of Duty. So I'm going to shut up here, and I'm going to give the thinker the floor, allow him to introduce himself, and then get his thoughts around it. So take it.
Because this is a gaming channel, I just want to let you guys know I've been a big gamer ever since I was little. Ever since playing Duck Hunt and cheating and holding the gun up to the screen. And it said, F these ducks. I cannot shoot this from 20 feet away. I'm going to go right up and just go blah, 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 blah. Oh, my God. So that's how I got introduced. Well, even before, I used to find Commodore 64s out on the street and be like, oh, I think I could fix this. Start playing Commodore 64. I don't know. I'm a little too old for that. But, yeah, man, just always been into gaming. It's just, I like to say, to escape reality, men have video games and women have makeup. So that's our thing. I know women play video games too, but that's always been my thing. Like, we have our video games to kind of escape our stresses, and women to escape, I guess, whatever they got going through. They just like to play house and makeup.
He's gonna get me canceled, guys. But yeah, go.
You don't have enough viewers to get canceled, man.
Hey, man, I have two. Shout out to all my my viewers, my 4 viewers that's watching right now. Hopefully we get others in as well. Shout out to all my subscribers as well. She said cancel.
Hey, hashtag me neither. Well, anyway, back to what I was saying. So I've always loved gaming, and today's topic of discussion is the merger, the acquisition, not merger, of Activision. I used to work in finance for Standard & Poor's. This was a long time ago, and I have a little bit of knowledge in mergers and acquisitions. Well, so I find it kind of interesting. So this is a passion of mine, just gaming, and then seeing something that I actually have some kind of real world experience with. And it's always interesting to me how the industry is evolving with technology. And I've always been one to kind of envision and look forward to seeing what's gaming going to be in 10, 20, 30 years from now. Mm-hmm. They always say, like, if you want to know what the future holds, just look at movies. Because eventually, technology catches up with the human imagination. The only movie I'm scared of is Terminator. And it's coming. It's coming. Like, if you look at movies, like, all the technology that, you know, our imagination back from the old films, just give it time. Eventually, technology is going to be created to mimic the stuff that was shown on film decades ago. You know, we just got AI, you know, Chat GPT and all this. It's, who knows, maybe this is the early signs of Skynet. I hope not. But I'm more focused on, like, okay, how can technology help us instead of cause our imminent destruction? So when it comes to gaming, I like to look at, you know, movies like Ready Player One. You know, I'm still waiting for full body virtual reality. You know, even though it may be like dystopian, just give it time. It's on our way. You know, so when it comes to like what in the current day, present, you know, we're kind of looking at like we have next gen systems, awesome graphics. When I was a kid, I know playing 8-bit Mario, thinking like this is the best graphics ever.
Yeah.
And then when Mario 2 came out, nothing can top this. Mario 3 came out, this is amazing.
Yes.
Super Nintendo, and then you had all these other systems, and then I remember when they had the Sega CD. I was like one of the first CDs you know, you remember you could attach it to the Sega Genesis.
Sega Genesis, yeah.
But it was like that add-in. Mm-hmm. I remember playing games like Prize Fighter, and it was like recorded video on the CD, and I was like, man, I just thinking like, you can't get better than this. You can't get better than this. And just give it time, and then it comes out, they got something new, and now we're in PS5, we're in series, you know, S series, and it's just amazing the games we play. But then you think like, man, what's it going to be in 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Are we going to have full body virtual reality? And it's amazing to me. Now going back to like from the business angle, I look at it like, well, it's going to have to evolve. It has to catch up to what the technology is going to allow. So my big thing is like, all right, what's the current infrastructure? Because there's always that's like a limiting factor with how do you get out like the best games to the most people possible to maximize profits. You know, obviously it all started with you need a home console, right? But then you look at something like the movie and TV industry and how you have, it started with like VCRs, right? You needed a VCR, and you went to go to a video store, Blockbuster, rent the movie, go watch it. Then it morphed into DVDs and Blu-rays and all this higher, you know, better graphics, the equivalent of like better systems, you know, better graphical fidelity, audio systems. You could make your house sound like a movie theater. So with these technological improvements, you see how the business is shifting. Businesses like Netflix come up and they're like, oh, you know, you don't have to go to a store anymore. You look at Game Pass and you look at the PS Store. You don't have to go to GameStop anymore to buy a game. Even they're trying to cut out Amazon. Like, why? You want a midnight release? You want to play it day one? Get the digital copy. Have it preloaded. So everything is geared towards like human self-gratification. It's like, I want it now. I want it instant. It's an innate need that we have as humans because, first of all, we're lazy as a species. We want things, the maximum things given to us with the least amount of effort. So when it comes to like capitalism and consumerism, they figured it out. They're like, just send it through the digital wire, displayed right on their TV. They never have to leave their house. They can just click in their underwear while eating Cheetos, and they're good. You know, And to tie this all together, going back to like the acquisition of Activision with Microsoft, I see it shifting to how kind of like the Netflix model I brought up in previous streams with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's easier for me to talk about it now instead of typing it out because there's a lot I've left out. But in summary, it's kind of like I see what they're doing with how the Netflix digital model kind of took over Blockbuster.
Mm-hmm.
And originally, like Netflix, they try to acquire all these major movie studios. So you look at what Microsoft does. Okay, they're trying to acquire like major developers of top tier games. So with Netflix going after trying to get deals with Warner Brothers and Paramount and Disney, this like AAA, right, in the gaming industry, in like the movie industry, that would be like AAA content. Like, hey, you want to watch these new movie releases? You want to watch these shows? Hey, just get a subscription to Netflix. Boom. And then after some time, these people got wise and say, why are we having just our stuff on this platform? Once our contract is up, let's take it out and just make our own stuff. And now Netflix, how much they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars to try to create their own content. So when you look at it, like, what is Sony's concern now that Microsoft has acquired Activision? They're like, okay, say Activision is like Disney. All right, just for hypothetical, argument's sake. And they're like, oh man, they just bought Disney. And now they have the rights to all the Disney content. They may still allow us to show the Marvel movies, which would be like the Call of Duty equivalent. They, in the deal that just came out today, they may allow us to still utilize the Call of Duty, right? But we don't have an exclusive contract with Activision anymore. We have a contract with Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what I foresee happening with this roadblock that they dealt with the FTC and soon to be the CMA over in the UK is Microsoft now may go after who's to stop them from buying out all the other developers that make AAA titles.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too, because I said this in one of my streams, and one of the questions that I asked one of the content creators was like, what's to say that Microsoft don't let off the gas and they continue to buy up other publishers or developers, especially when they have a small catalog of first-party titles than Sony does, because Sony has a huge first-party catalog. And, with Microsoft coming out admitting defeat, they can't compete in the console space anymore with, the top, Nintendo and Sony. So we have to take a different approach. And that's exactly what Microsoft has done. And I have to admit, it's a big W for Microsoft. They acquired ABK. Actually, what's interesting is they acquired Bethesda's ZeniMax. I think it was 20. Correct me if I'm wrong in chat. 2021, and then turned right back around and acquired. They finally got ABK. When they announced that in 2022. If it didn't get drawn out the way it did, they probably would have had ABK up under their umbrella. So with Microsoft moving into a different directions, their main competitors, which we started to talk about before we got cut off in the stream, like Apple, Google, and Amazon, which Amazon is trying to get into the gaming space as well. I don't see how that. I'm looking forward to that. I'm seeing what Amazon throw out there, which is going to be interesting because I think they own the Tomb Raider.
Well, I was going to go into segueing into like what do I see how it is going to evolve into like I don't want to bring this up, but like the fanboy base, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, like especially Xbox and PlayStation. I'm a big proponent, like, as long as the players get to play the games. Like, what goes on behind the scenes with business deals? Like you have mergers and acquisitions. People always thinking like, oh man, is it going to be, damn, are the fanboys on Xbox side are like, we got Activision, we got Call of Duty, we got. It's like, okay,
that's going on right now.
It's like, so what? Like, I don't see it hindering. Like, I don't see it ever coming to the point where you're going to be forced to buy a specific console. I see it. This is like the early stages of the major players trying to set themselves up to kind of like acquire their market share of where the best content is going to lie. Kind of like going back to like what's going on with the like all these apps. You got Disney app, you got Netflix app. There's so many options now of where to like watch a movie, where to watch a TV show. I see it as it's going to be eventually it's going to be like universal. No, I don't want to say universal, but it's going to be like hardware that will allow you to access anything, almost like Steam, right? But not every game is on Steam,
right?
But it's going to be like I see it being more of a subscription-based model, where it's like, okay, you want to play this AAA game, you have to have a subscription to our platform because we're the ones that have the rights to it or we developed it. But you may not be tied to like, oh, I must get this specific console to play this game. Mm-hmm. Almost like kind of like how like when Roku came out, TiVo came out, now we have smart TVs. As long as you have a smart device, even a cell phone, you can get access to any of these apps. But like I said, infrastructure, technology, we're decades away from that because unlike the movie and TV business model, mm-hmm. where it's just one-way information going to you to download, with gaming, it's that latency, it's the upload speed too, because you're incorporating a controller. When you press the button, now there's signals being sent back to register that button prompt. And this has to happen at like the speed of light, right, especially right. Like imagine, I remember when Street Fighter 4 came out and I was like, oh, this is great. Playing from players from around the world, getting my score up. And then people used to rage quit and just like, and the connection and then making it seem like, oh, it's just a bad internet connection. Like, no, you rage quit because you were getting your ass kicked. And you just like disconnected the anyway. Right. But imagine playing a fighting game. It's like doing these combos. The second you do a Hadouken or whatever, mm-hmm. that thing has to be instantaneous, registering from the controller to the console, going through your wires, then going sent out to the server. Then it has to process it, then send it back to now, like for a fighting game. If you're playing someone else, your display and your opponent's display at the same exact time so they can block, so they can counter the move. And this has to happen at the speed of light. So first world countries have this already, but second and third world countries, they don't have the infrastructure. You need fiber optics. You need infrastructure to support what I see happening to the gaming industry, where I think it's going to go to the point where it may be, I don't want to say all digital, but the majority of it. And going back to the Activision deal, I just see this being like the first steps of this happening, where you have powerhouses like Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo and Amazon coming in. And I think really you're not buying the company. They bought the talent. They acquired the talent of the game developers. It's not the Activision name that's valuable. It's the people who work at Activision that make the AAA games. The talent, and they may have, and this is very legal. It's like, you may have non-compete clauses in these talents, right, where right, like the game, these coders, right? Because really it's the coders that develop these games. They may have non-compete clauses, be like, okay, we just acquired your employer. You can't quit and then go work for Capcom or go work for Square Enix. You can't do it. You have to, if you do it, we'll sue the hell out of you.
Right.
These power plays are meant to acquire talent. It's not the name they care about. It's not to say, yeah, you may have the name in the sense of the game, Call of Duty, Diablo, whatever, but it's the people who make the game. They don't care about the name Activision because it's going to be Microsoft. And Microsoft is a global brand. They only care about acquiring these people, and that's what I think is really on the back end, is that they want to go ahead and farm. Not even farm. Well, farm is like more of an in-house term. They just want to go ahead and pluck these top talented coders and game developers that are making these AAA games and be like, oh, you work for us now. Don't even dare leave because we'll probably bankrupt you. We'll sue you. You know, and these details are not going to be released to the public, but that's usually the way these things work when you have acquisitions. They're not really acquiring the name Activision. They could care less. They may dissolve that if they choose to, but keep the talent that made the Call of Duties, that made the Diablos, because they know if it shifts the way I see it, if it shifts into like mostly digital, once the infrastructure is in place, it's no longer going to be like, do I need to buy PS8 or 9, whenever that happens, or PS10. It may not be, do I have to buy the Xbox Infinity, whatever they're going to call it? Do I have to buy the Nintendo Switcheroo, whatever they call it? You know, it's like, is it going to be, they may have a Roku device. Be like, hey, you know what? I like the feel of this controller.
Right.
But I could use this controller to play any game I want. I just have to subscribe to this platform in order to play this game. And I may have this subscription with this. I may have a subscription with this. And it could be different tiers, just kind of like what Netflix does, what Disney does. Hey, you want to play AAA day one release? You need the 4K tier.
Right.
You want to play the AAA games 3 months from now and maybe a little less. While everyone else is telling you how awesome the game is, like, yo, I can't afford that $22 a month. So who knows? But acquiring the talent, acquiring the people who make the movies, who make the TVs, who makes the games, I see this is the early stages of that happening. Eventually, I think there's always going to be consoles, I think, because you're always going to have places in the world where they don't have they're not going to have the infrastructures to support it.
Right.
But I think it's going to morph into that. The Activision deal, I think it's just going to pave the way to just slowly how the industry is going to evolve. You know, especially since Phil Spector said, you know, we can't compete. We're not looking at console wars. That's a very telling sign. We're not focusing on like we have the best console, because I think he knows the way this is going to eventually evolve is we got the best talent. We're going after the talent to make these games. And if you want to play these games, you're going to have to subscribe to us. So why do you think they're promoting Game Pass so much?
Yeah, and and I see it, and a lot of other gamers see it as well. And again, we talked about it. I mean, we had this discussion around it, and what gaming looks like, or may look like moving forward. And it just makes sense. And it's not really that tough to, look at it for what it is, right? You have Microsoft. Microsoft is global, right? They have their operating system, et cetera, et cetera. So some way, some shape or form, we're all part of their ecosystem. When it comes to gaming, it seems like it is moving forward towards that cloud streaming type of service. So, and Phil Spencer was very clear. He was like, hey, we have a clear vision of what we want to do. Mm-hmm. We're not trying to be like Sony or the other big players. And this is the route that we're going. We know where we're weak at, right? But this is what we want to do moving forward to make sure that we bring more games to more players on, just about every platform. Which is happening because, to bring up the elephant in the room for the day, Sony finally signed, a deal with Microsoft for Call of Duty, right? Mm-hmm.
And we spoke on this in the previous stream. So for anyone who didn't catch, I know we had some audio issues before. I was bringing up like, well, it's one thing to like acquire Activision, but so you may have a goal. People, conspiracy theories, right? Fanboys would be like, yeah, they're gonna buy out all the top, developing houses to try to run Sony, not out of business, but basically that's going to be their strategy.
Right.
To say, well, yeah, we own all the developers now. You have to buy an Xbox. Stop buying the PlayStation because they no longer have the games. What I see is you got to be an idiot to say, okay, now that we bought Activision, in order to play Call of Duty or Diablo, you must have an Xbox. Well, you just alienated millions of gamers. That's massive amounts of money.
Right.
From a business standpoint, that makes no sense. That's just good business to make a deal with Sony to be like, no, you can still have Call of Duty on PlayStation. You may not get the same cut revenue-wise because now we own everything for this particular game. Who knows what the deal was in place before when Activision was an independent studio? To say, like, who knows what the deal was with Sony prior to the acquisition. Activision may have said, okay, will allow you to have our game played on your platform, and whatever the percentage share is of sales, like, hey, say you get 40%, we get 60%, I don't know, whatever it was. But now Microsoft could come along and restructure the deal. Be like, you're still going to make a lot of money by allowing Call of Duty to be on PlayStation, but it may not be as lucrative as it was when Activision was independent. Since we own it, we're going to get a bigger share because we're allowing you to play. And it's also good business for Microsoft. Instead of saying, no, you can't have it on the platform at all. That's stupid.
Right.
Because now you just told millions of gamers, like that's a lot of revenue you just thrown out the door. And then you're forcing, that's not going to make the people like that are diehard Call of Duty fans or diehard Diablo fans instantly say, I got to go out and get an Xbox now. You can't. Yeah. You're not going to strong arm a consumer. You're going to be like, gamers are kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like if you, they're petty. It's like they're petty. Yeah. It's like, yo, you going to try to strong arm me? Be like, forget it. I'm not going to play. I'm not going to play it. I'll find a way. I'm like, through the dark web to play it. But you're not going to strong arm me to spend $400 on a new console. It's like that's not good business. So obviously that's a smart play. I think it's a smart play because they still don't have enough leverage as far as like, again, that's like number one first person shooter.
Right.
Maybe number one the massive multiplayer online role playing game in Diablo. That's a constant moneymaker too.
Yes,
like season passes.
It's huge. Right.
Huge, millions of dollars. Like to just say, "Oh, you're cut off. You can only play it on our platform." It's stupid because they don't have the leverage to do that right now. But this may be the first step. Their direction may be like, we got Bethesda, we got Activision.
Right.
Let's go after the other powerhouses, and if they maybe take control of everything. Then they could say, oh, now you don't have a choice. It could go to that point. But, again, I like to tie it back into like the Netflix business model. Eventually, I think technology may catch up where even like the indie developers may not get bought out by these big people. They may say, oh, cool. We don't need to have contracts with Microsoft and Sony or Nintendo. We can just create our game and put it out there to the internet.
Right.
And then just say, look, if you want to play our game, it's going to cost $3.99 a month. Something stupid cheap. Be like, you don't need a PS10. You don't need an Xbox Infinity. You don't need a Nintendo Switcheroo. You can just go ahead and get whatever, as long as you have access to our app, it allows you to connect to our servers, play the game. It's going to be saved, whatever device you have. And I think that may be going towards the end of the console wars. But I think that's decades from now. But I think this is the first steps of acquiring the talent to try to gain as much control as possible.
Got you. So, I mean, if you guys, have any thoughts on that, please share it. I mean, you can share it in the chat, and just elaborate just a little bit more on what the thinker was sharing. Don't be surprised. Maybe 10 or 15 years down the line, and I brought this up as well. Credit to the thinker because we was having a discussion around it, in the office, and he pretty much painted the picture. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if you have these publishers like Capcom, the third-party publishers, build their own apps, right? They want a piece of the market share.
Well, that's the thing. They don't exactly.
And be like, hey, well, we see what Microsoft is doing. We see what direction they're going. Sony's trying to play catch up. Get in there as well. Hey, why don't we build our own? And if you want to play like Street Fighter,
that's right.
Right. So you have to get a subscription service with
the Capcom app.
Yeah, with the Capcom. There you go. The Capcom app subscription service. We got like maybe 2 or 3 tiers. Et cetera, et cetera. Don't be surprised if these companies are going to want a piece of the pie and like, hey, this makes sense moving forward, right? So we see what Microsoft is doing. Great.
And again, the limiting factor is the technology doesn't exist now. I don't want to say it. The technology exists, is that the infrastructure doesn't exist.
The infrastructure, and that's something that we talked about a lot on this channel at Gaming and Reactions, and some of you guys, throwing your opinions and thoughts on that as well. The infrastructure is just not there. Yeah. And you have to keep in mind, Microsoft is an American company. Sony,
they're more of a global company. It's just they have roots in American systems. Just like how Sony is a global company, but they have roots in the Japanese system.
Okay.
So when it comes to like the FTC and everything like that, hey, not to say like everything is fair down the middle, but we don't know how these deals are structured. We don't know if the top Microsoft executives know the judges, or we don't know. Maybe they did rule it like completely fair and unbiased, which the justice system should be. We don't know, but Microsoft does have a bigger war chest. Their market cap is $2 trillion. Sony's is not as high as that, and that's a total market cap. That's not to say like they have $2 trillion that's for gaming. They have different subsectors, but when you look at the totality of the company, there's no way Sony goes head to head with Microsoft. As far as from a financial standpoint, their pockets are too deep. They have way too many more resources. So then when you start going into the judicial arena, money talks and connections matter. Will a small guy win these cases? Probably not. But when you take a behemoth like Microsoft, it's fair to say they have a lot more pull when it comes to these dealing with the government agency lawsuits.
Right.
They have a lot more pull than what a small guy, especially, and I bring up the point where, okay, look at the UK, right? Microsoft, even though Microsoft does business in the UK, even though Sony does business in the UK, UK put the kibosh. They said, look, let's just block this real quick. And what they do is they wait for the FTC to see what they're going to do.
So that's what it was?
Yeah, because the thing is that whatever comes out of the American judicial process is kind of like used as the gold standard, kind of like in our industry. There's other equivalents to our industry. So whatever laws our industry creates, other places around the world will create similar laws. Especially when you talk about like economic and financial laws, all the money is most of the money is in the American capitalist society. So when you have like multi-billion-dollar deals, it's if the American court system says no, this is right, this is wrong, you think the UK and all these other countries are going to be like, no, I disagree with you.
Yeah.
Because there's no way, because the GDP by itself is so skewed. It's like if the American judicial system say, no, this is allowed on a global level, that deal's not going to get stopped in the UK. and I think they've done like 8 180s like in the past 3 weeks.
Yes.
When they did the appeal, back to 180. They did, or when the decision was made the first time, they say, well, we're going to wait. Then the FTC appealed. They lost that. Okay, now we may go through with it.
Okay, so let's say if the we know that restructuring the deal is happening with the CMA, right? With Microsoft and CMA.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say if we wake up tomorrow and the CMA say, hey, we're going to stick with our decision. Do you think Microsoft then, because the deal can close as early as next week.
Yeah.
So do you think Microsoft would then just pull out of the UK?
No, well, first of all, I don't know. I mean, when you talk about like international, what goes on the international level, Microsoft can easily say, okay, even if, for argument's sake, the CMA could say, no, this deal cannot go through. Microsoft could then say, fine, we just won't sell in the UK. There's nothing to stop us from selling in all the other places that's allowed.
Right.
So we just won't sell it. But the thing is that there's too much, first of all, there's too many tax dollars to be made. The UK would be an idiot to say, no, you can't put this deal in place. And again, what goes on behind closed doors, we don't know. All I can say is when I was working in the finance sector in mergers and acquisitions, these deals could be very, very complex. There's a lot of information to go through, especially with an acquisition. A merger is kind of like, I don't want to say nothing changes, but it just things get restructured. But an acquisition, they look at a lot more closer than a merger. Because again, like going back to like the battery example, is like if you have this battery that all these auto manufacturers use, then someone comes along and be like, damn, I can't compete as a car manufacturer, but I see this part that everyone else is using. I'm going to go ahead and just buy that part, and now I could strong arm all these other manufacturers.
Right.
You want to use my battery? You got to pay me an upcharge. Like I'm gonna basically force you now to buy my car because I'm the only car that has the part. And then the other companies, what they do is they go complain to the government bodies and they say, this is not fair. This may be antitrust, deceptive business practices. And then what has happened in the Activision deal, they heard it in the courts and they determine, and they go through, what happens in acquisition, they go through like the market share and they see, okay, say Activision, they say, how many people pay for this product or service? How much money is this making? And now they look at all the competitors. They may have seen and this will become public information because this was a government lawsuit. This will eventually, all the information will be coming out for us to read. It'll be published in the Library of Congress. We'll have access to, a lot of people are not going to read it because law is boring. In my job, I read a lot of law. It's very boring. To sift through this stuff is very boring. But when I was working in the private sector, I used to have to do this rigorously, and the devil's in the details. So when they look at, well, would this acquisition be harmful to the consumers? Meaning will it create an unfair advantage to not give consumers the choice? It's always about choice, and that's where monopoly comes in, is that you don't want to take away the options of the consumer to say, no, this is the only place where you can buy this product or service. And now there's exceptions. There's utility companies, things like that. Mm-hmm. Those things are excluded from monopolistic practices. But when it comes to going back to the part analogy with the car, well, how many other battery manufacturers are there? There may be a lot of other battery manufacturers. So kind of just like the game studios. There's a lot of other game studios. And when they start crunching the numbers and they say, oh, Activision they generate this much money from these products, and then to say, okay, how many platforms you distribute that product? And they're looking at what's the numbers for Sony? How many people play Call of Duty on Sony? How many people play Diablo on Sony? How many people play, what's the other big one they have? Well, Candy Crush is
Candy Crush is mobile.
That's mobile, so that's not really exclusive to that.
Games like Overwatch.
Right. So yeah, I mean these are huge games that make millions and millions of dollars, So when they start running the numbers and they say, oh, well, maybe there's more players on Sony, and then if you make this deal, and you now you're going to take away that choice. Microsoft made the argument, well, no one's forcing someone. They may make the argument there could have been other first-person shooter developers. Like, why do they gotta play Call of Duty? There's other first-person shooters. There's other games like Diablo. So the choice becomes is it a fundamental thing where it's like, am I the only battery manufacturer? No, there could be other battery manufacturers. So even though they may have the best battery that most people use, they may have the best first-person shooter that most people play. When these cases are decided in court, it's something as simple as like, oh, well, if I just take away this game and you can only play it now on Xbox, does that take away the choice to play the game or to play the type of game? I take away the battery. I like this battery a lot, but that's not the only battery that exists. There's other batteries. It may not be as good. So there's always and that's dealing with the monopoly question, right? And they may have not put that burden. The FTC probably didn't. Okay, we got a visitor.
Yeah, we got a visitor that's joining us for the live stream here.
The FTC.
He's good.
The FTC may have not had the burden of proof to say, if this happens, it's going to take away the choice. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, gotcha.
The courts may have decided, well, that doesn't meet the level of threshold to say, are the consumers actually affected in a way where they're going to now say, well, you may not be able to play this specific game, but that doesn't actually limit your choice in what type of game you play. That's not the only first-person shooter. That's not the only massive online RPG out there. It may be one of the best, but that's not the only thing. So you actually don't take away the choice. So they may have not fit the burden of proof to say this will cause a monopoly on it, because the courts probably looked at it like, well, looking at the market share of this specific game, it may generate a lot of money, but there's other types of games that are very similar to that. You see what I'm saying? So they may have not met that burden of proof to say, oh, this was a monopoly thing. This was an antitrust thing. It may have just been like, hey, they proposed them a deal. And this is the thing, too, is that Activision accepted the deal. It's not like it's not a hostile takeover. And I also have experience in that, too. There's hostile takeovers where there would be evidence of either blackmail or extortion in acquiring someone. It's not like Microsoft went to them and say, oh, we're going to do this thing, and if you don't, we're going to figure out. And then they get strong-armed into going into the deal. Then that would have been a completely different case whatsoever. Sony would have been like, wait a minute. This is a hostile takeover. They're either blackmail or extorting them. Activision is saying, no, we accept. We want the deal. It's that Sony comes along and complains and be like, this is going to be unfair. And then when the process gets played out, the courts say, this doesn't meet the burden of proof to say that these laws were directly violated. These antitrust laws, these unfair, deceptive business practice laws, these monopoly laws. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, they just didn't make their case. And again, it gets the devil's in the details. So these accountants are going over the numbers. They're looking at what are the competitors that prevent a monopoly from taking place are other studios. If that was, if that was the only developer of a first-person shooter, then they'd be like, no, that's a monopoly, because this is the only type of product that exists out in the market. You cannot say, in order to use this product, you must go and support and use your money to support this company. That's where the idea of a monopoly comes in, is that you take away the choice. But there's many other first-person shooters, and I think that's what they use. Now we don't know. We don't have the files yet from the court documents.
Right.
I'm going to probably be interested in reading it, because and it's just interesting to me. But it will get very boring. I'm sure people will not read it.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to reading it once it comes out because I haven't really been following it.
No.
It's just been very, very busy. But if you guys would like to join the conversation, I appreciate you guys joining in the Gaming Interaction podcast. I got special guests on the show, The Thinker. He's giving his perspective on, the state of gaming and where it's heading, and also his thoughts around the whole ABK and Microsoft deal. And so I'm going to go to the chat. I see PE has joined us in the chat. So he says, let's see what he says here. He says, well, I thought he had mentioned something else in the chat, but I don't know if it went away or he says, come on, The Thinker, this is to you. Are you saying money was a factor in this merger?
Well, it's always about money. If you don't think it's about money, I mean, that's the way the world works. There's an old saying, the answer to 99 out of 100 questions is money. You just have to look to see exactly who benefits from it. They're not doing this for the grace of God. They're not doing this for the goodwill of the people. They acquired Activision to make money. Do you mean if there was money involved, like in the court's decision? Is that what you mean? Like, are you insinuating like money was involved in the judicial process? Is that what you mean? Like payoffs to judges? I'm not sure where you're getting at with that.
He says yes.
Oh, we don't know. But to say it doesn't exist, I think is ignorant. There's corruption. There's, I brought up, there's a reason why, Microsoft is a multi-trillion-dollar company. They have roots. It's an American company. Sony's not an American company. They're both global companies at this point. But to say, to think like justice is completely blind, that there's countless cases where corruption has gone on. That's not to say that there was any shady deals with this particular one. I'm just saying that the possibility exists. I'm not saying that that's not the probability. There's a difference between probability and possibility. It's possible that Microsoft may have had the right connections to get this deal approved. But knowing from my background, it is completely probable that it was decided fairly because, like I said, the devil's in the details. We don't have access to exactly what the court was looking at and what the lawyers presented to the court to say this is not an antitrust issue because even though this particular set of games makes a lot of money, it doesn't take away the choice from the players. There's still many other games like Call of Duty. There's still many other games like Diablo. So that may have been a fair and just argument for the court to be like, hey, you know what, they're right. But that's not to say it's not entirely possible that Microsoft, because of how big of a behemoth they are, that they may have either paid someone off at the FTC, paid off the courts. I'm not saying that's likely. I'm just saying the possibility exists. I could care less either way. But knowing, because I have a lot of legal experience. I'm not a lawyer, but because of my current job and my previous job in the private sector in corporate America, I'm very well versed in the law, even though I'm not a lawyer. So I know exactly how the courts work. But there's probability and possibility. It's more probable that this was decided fairly, but to say like there was zero chance of corruption, I mean, that's just not the way the world works. To say that there's zero chance in anything, I think is silly, in my opinion.
All right, Thinker. Appreciate you sharing that. So, PE, if that answers the question, let us know. And if you have any extra thoughts around that. D Nice, welcome to the stream, man. I hope you're still here. He says, I just think Sony's betting on live service right now. Yes, and that's something that we discussed before as well, and that's something that they came out, within their I forgot what it was called, but they did talk about that. They went into a little bit more detail on how they're moving forward with the live game services. So P says, yes, their approach to last gen wasn't successful for Sony. People, their game might have sold well, but it says otherwise. I guess he's asking for D-Nice's thoughts around that. DC says, great podcast show today. Appreciate it. Hope you're still here.
That's right. Get the merch, yo.
Hope you're still here. Yeah, make sure you get your day one merch, man. Shop at jasmine-karen.com. Also, if you're new, you're just joining us, we're just having a discussion around the state of gaming.
And if you are new to it, again, I've been waiting 9 months for this. So he has distribution problems. He needs to fix the pipeline. There's a breakdown somewhere.
But we're working it out. We're working it out over here at Gaming and Reactions. Jasmine, Karen, we're all one entity. But we're doing great. We're doing great. But he has it. He has it on. He's rocking it on the show, which is good. I'm loving it. He also has the extra one over here too. He has two. So we finally got the thinker over here to be a part of the podcast, and I can't thank him I can't thank him a lot. For taking the time out of his day, his son, to come over and join us, because we was having some issues earlier. So hopefully we get those technical issues ironed out and we can move forward. PE. But before we go on, if you'd like to join the conversation, please do so. Please do so. Put your thoughts and opinions in the chat. PE says Monopoly is not even close to this deal. Now, I don't think the thinker was saying that, this is what Microsoft is doing is, leading to a monopoly. I think he was just giving his thoughts around. I think he gave an example.
No, I was just explaining how the process works when the FTC and these government bodies, there's always a burden of proof that they have to establish. Obviously, monopoly is the most serious one, but they have to go through these series of questions they have to ask themselves. Usually what it stems down to is they'll get a complaint. In this case, Sony would kind of say, like, hey, look, this is not fair to us. And then the FTC would kind of look at it like, okay, are they doing a monopoly? Are they doing hostile takeovers? Is this acquisition legal? Is this merger legal? How would it affect the market share of the consumers that use this product or service? I was just talking about the general process of it, not to say that this particular case was a monopoly case. This was an antitrust case, which is really just about unfair and deceptive business practices. That's really what the whole the main point of this lawsuit was about.
All right, if PE, if that's what you was looking for, let us know. So I see we have another one of our partners in the stream here.
Who's that?
Sebastiani. You remember David?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Dave.
Yes.
Dave, welcome to the live stream, man. Are you still in the...
You put your government out there, Dave? Man,
yes.
You don't care about Big Brother watching you?
Yes, we're calling you out, man. Dude,
yo, people on Facebook are already finding out where your home address is. They're going to be coming up to your crib and just be like...
Oh, man, they're Googling you right now, man. What's going on, man? How's it going? Welcome to the podcast, man. We just...
By the way, both of you are still two disappointments. That man...
I don't know what he's talking about.
You don't remember that luncheon we had?
Luncheon?
Okay, what do all three of us have in common? We all have a similar background, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. So,
remember that luncheon? All right, we'll talk about it offline.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about it. You got to remind me. PE says Microsoft is global, but Xbox isn't in the terms of popularity. And I think he stated that. So
yeah. To your point, PE. I was just saying as far as Microsoft is an American company, but they're now a global brand, just like how Sony is a Japanese company, but now they're a global brand. Just looking at just the console, yes, in popularity, they're not the leaders of that. But as far as their resources, they vastly outweigh Sony's resources. So when you look at, and especially you're dealing with the American judicial system, Microsoft is an American company first. Even though they're now a global company, they're an American company first. They have roots in America, just like how Sony has roots in Japan. So that was just supporting the cause of it's possible that they have more pull or more sway in the FTC lawsuit because this is their country and they have more extensive resources than Sony does. That's the only point I was making. I thought it was probable, but that it's possible just because of the history, the company history.
And not to say that, to say this whole case kind of, trickled over into the political space where you had, politicians speaking out, coming out on social media.
You see, that just goes to show you that it's entirely possible that there's something behind the scenes. Because if there wasn't, once it reaches a politician's ears, or once a politician has to make a point of actually addressing it in a public forum, come on, you don't think what goes on the golf course can sway? I even got my golf course hat on today just to make this argument. You don't think business deals are made on the golf course? They're not made in the offices. Okay, it's entirely possible that Microsoft plays golf, like a Microsoft exec plays golf with a politician who happens to know the judge presiding over the case. It's entirely possible. This happens all the time. But I'm not here to create a conspiracy theory. I'm just saying it's possible. I think it's more probable that they actually judged it fairly because I've actually have real-world merger and acquisition experience in my old job, and going through the legal documents to see exactly what the courts look at, it's very monotonous stuff. It's like, they're looking at market share. They're seeing, number one, with choice, does this disenfranchise consumers into thinking like they now are forced to buy this product? So when this burden of proof is built up, when this case is built up, the court can just say, look, the facts that you've presented, you as the FTC has presented, does not meet this criteria of it being an antitrust, of it being a deceptive business practice. Because, first of all, the deceptive business practice, that got thrown out because I brought up Activision agreed to this. So it's not a hostile takeover. They wanted to sell. So it's not a deceptive business practice, because if you have the seller initiating the deal, or even if Microsoft went to them first and say, hey, we're interested in buying you, that's fine. Activision agreed to it. They said, no problem here. We'll sell it to you. It's just that Sony comes in and be like, hey, wait, whoa, this is not fair to us. And then that's where that thing started. And then they have to go through the judicial process of asking this. But again, it's not to say that if once politicians get a word of this and they have to make it a point to come out on social media or wherever and talk about it, I mean, you gotta be an idiot to think like things are not talked about behind closed doors.
Right.
Especially once politicians are involved. And I know there may be people that are not familiar with the way our government works, but there's 3 separate branches of government. The judicial process has to be separate from the legislative process and the executive process. Now, from politicians' side, they're on the executive and the legislative side. The judicial process has to be a completely separate entity. But to think that there's not shady things that go on behind the scenes, I mean, is ridiculous. But again, I actually don't believe that was the case. I just think it was more probable that it was probably decided more fairly. Because again, it doesn't. My experience is that it didn't take away a choice to play. And you have Microsoft coming out making a deal with Sony. Hey, we're not, and that's just, and I think Sony knew this. They're going to be like, Microsoft would be losing a lot of money if they didn't allow Call of Duty to be still played on the PlayStation. So even though we may get a smaller cut, it's not going to be like, oh, you have to now buy an Xbox to play these games,
All right. So if you guys are enjoying the conversation, make sure you hit that like button. Also share the stream, man. So we're gonna be here just for a little bit longer.
But some other questions.
I don't want to keep the thinker here too long. I know Jeannie.
My grapes are ready, man.
Oh, you heard it. He said his grapes are ready. I don't know if he's putting on a front.
Nah, man.
All right, so we're gonna keep it going. So D Nice, thank you for your question here. He says, "The Thinker, do you think this deal could be a bad deal for Microsoft?"
A bad deal? I don't think it's a bad deal. I think they're just positioning themselves. I don't know if you were on the earlier stream or earlier in the stream. We were talking about how I believe that they're not really acquiring it for the company, for the games. They're acquiring it for the talent. I think they're acquiring it for the coders and the actual computer people who make these games, because that's really what the talent lies in. Because as far as the managing, when they acquire a company, usually the first people to go are the managers and directors. That's just the way it is. They don't have a need for Activision presidents and executives, right. Because now you're Microsoft.
Right, you're up under that umbrella now.
We are the big boys. We don't, why do we need to keep you on?
Now, do you think Microsoft may start getting rid of some people?
Yeah, they can. It's well within their power as long, once they buy them out. But again, they may keep some people, some strategic positions in place. And I'm only talking about from like what I've seen in my experience, like how other companies buy and acquire other companies. Usually you acquire them because they created a product or a service that a lot of people spend money on. So when they look at it, they're looking at, okay, who are the people in that company that make this product or service so exceptional? So when it comes to games, Microsoft buys Activision Bethesda not for the management. They could care less about the management because they're Microsoft. Just the fact that they're able to buy them means that they have better management. So there's no point in keeping on Activision management. They can say, hey, look, we don't have the time to deal with this. Let's just kind of like keep it status quo. But eventually they may say, look, this is redundant. We don't need a gaming director of Activision. We have our own people. But the talent they're going to keep, because they're the ones that actually made the games.
Right.
The creative minds, the coders, that's really why these people acquire other companies. This is not just for gaming. This applies industry-wide, in any industry.
Okay, so D-Nice...
So I don't think going back to D-Nice's question, I don't think it's a bad deal, because I think this is exactly what they wanted.
All right, D-Nice, if you receive an answer to your question, let us know. If you have any other thoughts around that, also let us know. So he also says, what if this deal don't turn the way Microsoft wants it to? There's a lot of consumers that don't like Activision games, just Call of Duty. And I can see where he's coming from with that. I don't know many gamers that play Diablo 4. I mean, I'm not saying that the gamers are not out there. Me personally, I don't know a lot that play Diablo 4 or StarCraft, or I don't know how big Overwatch is. I don't play the game. I just don't know. But from time to time, I would hear some gamers talk about Diablo 4. Mm-hmm. I mean, Diablo itself and StarCraft. I mean, I think that's just one of those games you sit down and spend millions of hours and trying to build your character up, and I don't know, but Call of Duty is one of those games that just stand out above the rest.
Well, clearly they making, even though we may not know gamers, like we don't play it ourselves, that doesn't mean like, you know, our own anecdotal experience does not reflect reality. Clearly these games are making millions and millions of dollars. There's a lot of people playing these games. We may just not know, we may not be friends with them, but they clearly wanted this deal. So going back to Dee's nicest question, do you think this deal could be bad for Microsoft? And then he further goes on to say, what if this deal doesn't turn the way Microsoft wants to be? There are a lot of consumers that don't like Activision games, just Call of Duty. D-Nice, do you mean, will this like, are they not going to get a return on their investment because it cost them $69 billion to get them? Do you think like, is that what you're asking, that this deal that they thinking like, okay, we're going to spend all this money and then it's not going to give us a return? Okay, he says yes. Okay, so in that point, yeah, I mean, it's a calculated risk that they think like this was worth it to us to spend all this money to acquire this talent. That's my opinion. It's not the games themselves. I think these are, again, I don't know if you were on the stream earlier, but my personal opinion, I think these are the early stages of setting up a business model where it's going to be primarily digital. It may be 20, 30 years from now, but I think right now, if you acquire the top creative talent in the world, and if we go to a future where it's no longer going to be like console wars, it may pay dividends later on down the line when you have now the most creative minds in the entire industry making the best games. And in order to play those games, you have to subscribe to Game Pass. You know, that's what I think. These are the early stages of that happening. I think they're not thinking short term. I don't think. They may not recoup that money right away. I think they look at the value that these coders and these creative minds, the ones that actually make the games, these AAA games, or these games that make a lot of money. We may not think they're AAA, but it makes money. Candy Crush, billions.
Huh?
Like, to say that's a AAA game, that's ridiculous. But it's a mobile game. It's a game that makes money. They're looking at it like, these are the geniuses that decided, let's create this little game.
Right, and see how it took off.
Look at Angry Birds.
Yeah.
Like, that blew up into movies and merchandise. And there was probably just a handful of coders in a room that said, hey, let's just make this little game. But that's the talent that these businesses want to acquire. You know, so I think they're looking at it for a long term. They may not get a return on their investment right away. It's not just going to be like, oh, I'm going to buy it just so we have the rights to Call of Duty and Diablo and Overwatch and all this. And now in order to play it, you must buy our consoles that are now going to recoup or going to go towards our revenue stream. They're not buying it for that reason. They're not going to buy the games to strong arm the consumers into now buying Xboxes. First of all, that's not going to be enough money, first of all. Because I don't even think they make money on the Xbox. As far as the production costs, it's probably like such a slim margin. I don't know what the numbers are, but it's probably such a slim margin to think like, I'm going to buy this company, so now to strong arm people to say, you got to buy an Xbox to play it. It's probably going to take like billions of units sold to even recoup that initial investment because the margins are so slim
right.
on the console. That doesn't make any sense. So again, they're buying it for the talent because they know if we get these people to come work for us, and again, I mentioned like non-compete clauses. They probably have these safeguards in place where when they acquired this company, all these creative minds at Activision and Blizzard, they're like, yeah, you now are falling under Microsoft. You can't go work for Capcom. You can't go work for Square Enix. You can't take the talent with you and go work for another developer. It doesn't work that way. And if you do, we're going to sue you. And these people don't have a lot of money. They're just regular creative people. You know, so I think eventually their investment's going to come back to them. but it's going to take a while, and that's just going to go with the talent. It's not the product. It's not the upfront product they're getting. They're buying the talent.
Yep. All right, D-Nice. I hope that answers your question. So speaking of ROI, the talent seems to be the answer there, right?
Yeah.
You have that talent there. You're able to keep that talent. That keeps the games flowing out.
Yeah.
The quality of those games, et cetera, and keep the money flowing in.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think Microsoft would gamble with $70 billion and just not manage and invest in that and say, hey, let's make sure that we keep that up and going, and to let that fall by the wayside, right? That talent,
mm-hmm.
and then all you have is Call of Duty. So that whole $70 billion was a waste.
Again, you don't get the return of investment through the console. They can't make enough money.
Right.
Like if you try to strong arm a consumer. Right. Yeah. It's evident. It's evident of that. To think that the strategy, like when Phil Spector came out and be like, we lost the console wars. So to think the strategy is, okay, we're going to strong arm consumers into now buying more Xboxes than Nintendo and Sony. How do we do that? Let's get up the best developers that make the games everyone plays for the sole purpose of driving up Xbox sales?
Right.
No, that's ridiculous. It's the games. It's the people who make the games. That's where the value in this deal is.
Yes. Jeannie says rebound sound. Rebound sound.
I don't know what that means.
Are we having any sound issues? Let us know if we're having any sound issues. If that's what you mean, Jeannie. She's probably gonna beat me up. She's like, look.
She's probably gonna beat me up. She does carry a switchblade on everywhere she goes, though.
Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah, just be careful.
Anything else? Yeah, I just got the 411 on that.
Which your wife is death by 1,000 cuts. Hers is just straight to the jugular.
Yep. Done. But so I can get it two different ways. But PE says, don't you think antitrust also means unfair advantage?
Well, yeah, I mean, from a legal standpoint, they're kind of like synonymous terms. I think you're in Africa. I'm not sure. What country is he from?
He's from Ghana.
Ghana, okay. I mean, they have a different judicial. I don't know what the laws are over there, but here in America, they kind of mean the same thing. It's just antitrust means just like unfair and deceptive business practices. Really, they're synonymous with each other.
D-Nice says the whole novella was about Call of Duty, not about making the deal. I would say from Sony's position, it was about Call of Duty because they made it about Call of Duty. I didn't hear anything about any of the other games. Let me know if I'm understanding what you're saying here. But yes, it has been about Call of Duty the entire time, and Sony had made that clear. But then they came out and they stated, when Microsoft wanted to make a deal with them, well, Sony didn't want to make a deal with Call of Duty, and they just wanted to block the merger altogether. So I agree. To me, it was pretty much about Call of Duty, the entire times. I mean, that's what we've been talking about or discussing, because I think Call of Duty stands out more than any of the other games that's listed. Even though you have Diablo and StarCraft and those other games that make millions of dollars, but Call of Duty is that game, right?
Call of Duty is a huge. I mean, I haven't checked the numbers, but I do know, like with Diablo, any game that has like a continuous reason to like spend money, like these games that do like season passes, or like games that keep that revenue going, like Overwatch. Even though I think Overwatch is free to play Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
I think so.
It's free. It's basically free. So on the upfront side, it's like that's the attraction. It's free to play, but then they have like real money transactions in the game. So they get you hooked. So any game like Candy Crush, that's why these people are so valuable. Is because they create these games where it's not like a single player game, like a God of War. It's like once you play the game, once you beat it, that's it. You spend the $70, and there's really nothing. They don't ask for your money. We have this other chapter of the God of War story that you got to spend another $20 on to see. Right. These games are designed in a way where like the microtransactions and all gotta get the season pass because there's no like continuous story element to it. It's more like getting gear and getting extra
new
stuff,
weapons and stuff like that.
That's how you get it going. But to design these games,
it's genius. I think
it's genius, and that's where the talent is. So that's where the money is made. And then obviously you have it at a point where you have a strong consumer base that every year they're looking forward to the new Call of Duty. With Diablo's not in that realm because they don't come out with a new Diablo every year.
Correct.
But when it comes out, they make massive amounts of money from it because it's only 4 came out, but when it comes out, they do the season passes, so they figure out a way to get that money going.
Right.
With Call of Duty, that's a yearly thing.
Yeah. It does.
That's a yearly thing.
Every year.
And they have competitions. They have tournaments. That's a huge game because it's not just like a single campaign. I played a game, that's it. No, online is massive. People spend so much time on that game. They're playing for thousands of dollars in these tournaments. So there's a lot of money involved. But yeah, I mean, it's not to say like I think Call of Duty is like their flagship. But they definitely have other sources. I mean, $69 billion is not just for Call of Duty. That's not the way it is.
All right, so I'm going to ask you this question, and I'm going to ask the chat this question as well. So now that Microsoft has acquired APK, right? And Call of Duty is that game that stands out above the rest as of right now because that's been the talk. Now, Halo has been Microsoft's flagship shooter, multiplayer. Mm-hmm. So do you guys think, and I'm asking this to the chat as well, do you guys think that Call of Duty is going to overshadow Halo moving forward? Mind you what Call of Duty does. It comes out every single year.
Yeah, Halo doesn't. Though.
Halo does not come out every single year. So, do you guys think that Call of Duty is going to be that new flagship for Microsoft?
Yeah, I mean, I just think whatever makes the most money is going to be the new flagship. I mean, that's just the way it is. I don't see how Microsoft is going to kind of like. That's both of their products now.
Yes. Yes.
They wouldn't do anything to hinder the sales of one product over another. They're going to promote. Right. They're going to try their best to try to make as much money as they can from Halo, just as they can from Call of Duty. Whether they keep the same model going, where Call of Duty gets released every year, and then Halo every several years. I don't know what it is.
Right.
But I don't see them changing that.
And I think that's genius too, because you have Call of Duty comes out every year, right?
Yeah.
And now you have Halo hanging back in the wind. Yeah. That gives the developers more time to focus on Halo and get it right. By the time it comes, because I think they're moving towards. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they're moving towards Unreal Engine 5 with the next Halo game. So.
Yeah, we know what's even more interesting is now that they can now cross-utilize talent pool for each game.
Yes.
They can look at Halo and say, what are we doing wrong with Halo? What is our weakness? Whether graphical, frame rates, whatever, like creativity, the campaign, whatever is going on, and say, this is our biggest. What's the number one complaint that the players have with Halo? What's the number one complaint that the players have with Call of Duty? And now, again, it's the talent pool. It's that they got the talent. Now they can go to the creative minds of the people that make Call of Duty and be like, hey, can you help us out with the Halo problem? They could go to the Halo people.
What you guys think about that?
And say, hey, can you help us out with the Call of Duty problem? And now you can raise both qualities, both the quality, because now you have you have a bigger access to the talent pool. And again, the deal is about the talent acquisition. The management, I wouldn't be surprised as soon as the deal, the ink may not even be dry yet, and the managing directors at Activision are gone. Because the biggest cost in any company is salaries and benefits. It's redundant to have managers at Activision when you're now owned by Microsoft. The talent is going to stay. That's the reason why they bought it. So going back to your point, now with Halo, they can say, oh, damn, we have Call of Duty coders. The Call of Duty coder could come and be like, oh, I see what you're doing wrong with this. You can just go ahead and do boom, boom, boom. And now that brings it to a different stratosphere. Now, same thing with Call of Duty. They could have great minds working on Halo. Be like, hey, you know what? Put this off to the side. Come help us with the next Call of Duty. And they have access now to a bigger talent pool, and that's really what's going to be. I think that's where these acquisitions are going to come into fruition. So yeah, it's going to be exciting to see how the industry evolves into.
Yeah, it's really going to be exciting because now that you have these two first-person shooters under your belt, man, Halo is huge, Call of Duty is huge. You have one that comes out every year. You can let that model continue, working itself the way it is with the Call of Duty franchise, and then work on Halo, and then, like you said, cross.
Yeah,
man.
Because now everyone gets the same paycheck from Microsoft. Your W-2 now says Microsoft.
Absolutely. I didn't even think about that. That just makes sense if they decide to go that route. Like, hey,
it's just like with any other industry. Think about say an auto manufacturer. You got a guy that he works for Honda, and this guy's like the genius. All he does is figure out a way to. He's like the emissions expert. He knows how to make the emissions down to zero, where he can. No government body is ever going to disapprove a new engine or a new exhaust system. And all the other auto manufacturers want him. And now someone else comes along and say they buy Honda. Okay, all the management's fired, but we want you. I want you to now work on the emission systems of the cars we make.
Yes.
And that's what it is. And that's Microsoft now is going to have free reign to be like, to merge the talent pool, take them out to a big company lunch and be like, hey, we got the Halo guys, we got the Call of Duty guys, you guys get together, talk, and now, or they may even go and make and combine and say, you know what, we're going to make a new first-person shooter. We're going to take the best, we're going to now brainstorm amongst the top talent from Halo and Call of Duty. Let's make an entirely new game.
Yeah, and this goes back to the one question that a lot of gamers are waiting on right now. What they asked was, okay, now that they have Call of Duty under their belt, how they're going to restructure, now they have these talents, within, under their umbrella. So that makes perfect sense, for Microsoft to come together and say, hey, let's make a new one.
Yeah.
Let's pull talent for here, or they may make a new studio, maybe, I don't know, a new group.
Yeah, it could just be a completely separate project. I mean, they have free reign if they own it. And going back to the point where there's some people that think like, oh well, what's gonna stop these coders and developers from leaving and going to another, because you don't make multi-billion-dollar deals without safeguards in place. I guarantee you, they have non-compete clauses in these contract deals where they're acquiring this company. They basically say, okay, every one of your current employees, they can't go work for another employer. Gotcha. They can quit. There's no forced labor because that's slavery. but they can't now go work for Capcom or Square or wherever, or they can't. The only way to do that is if they decided to make their own. But even then, it could still be considered a non-compete clause, meaning you can't go work for the competition. When we acquire you, you can't. It's not allowed to go work for the competition. So that's the safeguard in place. Because again, this deal is to acquire the talent.
And this is what I tried to elaborate on in past streams. When it comes to these contract deals, and I appreciate you putting it into that perspective. To hopefully to make it clear for everybody that's watching here. And if you have any thoughts on what we're talking about or opinions, please join the conversation, and let us know what you're thinking. Again, I think it's a big W for Microsoft. Acquiring ABK. There's value there. Bringing more games to gamers on different platforms, and also the W with being able to sign a deal with Sony. I don't think really Sony had a choice in the matter at that point because
that's also throwing away money. If you don't sign the deal, you're just saying, oh yeah, go ahead and take right. all our consumers, or not even take all our consumers. The consumers may not follow.
Not follow, right?
But to say like, okay, if you sign this deal, you're gonna make this much money. They're just gonna be like, well, why are we gonna not approve it?
And it would just make business sense as well. D-Nice says Call of Duty is a big game. Also, Grand Theft. Grand Theft Auto. Okay, all right. Grand Theft Auto is a big game. That's right. Mm-hmm. What you got? What you got on there? What were you about to say?
Saying any game. Again, the creative minds that make these games, people keep on playing them. They're not in the business of single story games. Even look at like when a Call of Duty comes out. Dude, I remember when Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 came out. Mm-hmm. I think that was one of the best campaigns, the single story campaign. Then it was like, okay, you go online and you keep it going, right? But the campaign itself was amazing. Mm-hmm. And then I noticed every year the campaigns got shorter and shorter and shorter. And now it takes like 4 or 5 hours to beat the whole game. The game, that's not where the money is. The money is getting them online, having these tournaments, season passes. These guys figured out a way to make these games so addicting. Candy Crush, like this is creativity at work. These microtransactions or the season passes, anything that gets you to keep on playing the game over and over, and then looking to like, it's almost like the phone. I got to have the latest iPhone. When the Call of Duty comes out, I got to get the latest one. Mm-hmm. I got Field Marshal rank last year. I got to start it all over again because the new Call of Duty is coming out. It's like, and they're grinding. These people go out and they immerse themselves in these games. And all the, it's funny too. They don't even, it's a small investment because all they're doing is like changing the map, changing the skins of the weapons. You got a new skin, you got a new weapon. Same thing like Grand Theft Auto, like, it's just changing maps, and then it's just like, oh, you want to get the golden gun? It's going to cost you $5. You get 1 million people to do that, you got $5 million.
Yeah, $5 million.
Exactly. It's like for making, and it's such a small little code they probably write. Like, the amount of effort that's involved, it's lucrative. It's absolutely lucrative. So when it's acquiring these people that have the ability to say, all right, we don't have to have the best graphical quality game. We don't have to have the best like audio fidelity game. We don't have to have the best immersive story like we don't need creative writers. We don't need The Last of Us, right? Hey, damn, that story was ridiculous. Let's hire these writers. They're not interested in that. They're interested in the minds of like, how can we get a game that people are going to keep on playing every day and spend millions of dollars on a year, collectively.
Right.
But it adds up, and when you get those minds, that's what they want. They're like, dude, we want these people. And that's where the money is going to be made. When it comes to something like Grand Theft Auto, like this is going to be billions and billions of dollars. And again, there's few people in the world that have the ability to do this. They work at the top developers, And that's what Microsoft did. They look at Bethesda, they see what Bethesda did, you know, and I don't know, Rockstar, and it's like, I mean, these guys, and the thing is too is like, just like athletes, you know, there's a small percentage of professional athletes in the world, the best players in the world. Same thing with these people that make these AAA games or the games that make billions of dollars. There's a small handful of these people that exist in the world, because when you go through school and you come up, like, how much are they promoting being a coder, being a computer programmer, getting into this? Someone may have a passion for it, but the educational system is the farming process. But when you go through school, like, it's not really said, oh man, dude, become a game developer. So it's not like a secretary. There's millions of secretaries in the world.
That's true.
Because it's a common job. Being a game developer is not common. So when you're like the best of your field in such a very small pool, that you can create products and services that generate billions of dollars consistently, Microsoft is like, dude, this is the plays we got to make. We want to start grabbing these people up. You know, they're looking at, what they're doing is they're looking at all the games that, they probably have a list, just like Sony and Nintendo. What games make the most money? They have a list, and they say, what games make the most money? Let's go after that talent. If they could be bought, let's go after them, because these are the creative minds that made this product that everyone is spending money on
consistently. Yeah. It just makes complete sense, and I think that's why Sony is pushing the live service part of it. They're trying to, you know, get into the PC world as well. And Sony is known for their, you know, their single player, narrative games.
Right.
So they're not very big on the multiplayer side.
That's right.
So
that may be a big disadvantage for them. There's always going to be players that want to be immersed in a single player, story driven. But as far as the revenue, it doesn't come nowhere near these other games like Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty and Overwatch. And Overwatch, I think, was a brilliant business model, because I think it's free up front. You can just download the game, but then they start getting you with all these microtransactions and all these. You got to spend money if you want to, like, I think, build your character up or I haven't really played. From what my limited knowledge of it, I'm not an Overwatch player, but I think that's brilliant. And I think I know a lot of the games just like mobile games are designed like that. The game is free to play, but then once you start playing it, you're like, man, there's so many things I can't do, because in order to do it, I got to spend whatever.
Exactly. It's just like when I was playing, what's the game called? Well, we can say Candy Crush.
Yeah.
Right. So once you get to a certain level, and you're trying to make your matches, blah blah blah. I'm like, oh man, I keep losing. This one, I'm like, man, if I get this power up or whatever, I got to pay what, $2.99 to get that power up, and then boom, I got it, and then or I buy up like a lot of coins, you know, to be able to purchase stuff, whatever, blah blah. Then I use up. Let's say if I buy 2,000 coins, right? That power up may cost like 500. Like, oh, shoot. And then there goes my $5 right there. So it's genius how
a lot of
they built this.
These games, these are the same people that make like casinos. The casinos, if you ever go, I know you were just in Vegas.
Yeah, we're just in Vegas.
If you are going to a casino, it's designed in a way where it's they got psychiatrists and psychologists, you know, on retainer to try to figure out, how can we keep people here?
Keep people coming.
Based on visual stimulation. When you walk into a casino, lights, colorful.
Ding, ding, ding,
what's Candy Crush? And then you look at like Call of Duty. What's the skins of the weapons? Got to get the golden weapon. Got to get this. Got to get. You know, it's these things that have no value in the real world. It's the human psyche. They figure out a way where it's like, what makes this game addicting, where people are going to play it, and there's something about the game that keeps on going back, and spend money on something that, once you spend the money, it's not valuable. You can't like say, oh man, I spent $1,000 on Call of Duty, or I spent $1,000 on Candy Crush. you can't resell that. There's nothing to resell. There's nothing, and you don't get nothing tangible for it. You may get like, oh, I got all the weapons. Oh, I got all the skins. I got all the costumes. I got all the maps unlocked. I got whatever. But it's like, to someone that's like, well, how much is that worth? 0. It's not worth anything. But at the time when you were clicking on it, and then it goes to that patience factor, because I know a lot of these games are based on like, well, if you want this, you got to wait.
Right.
These games are designed in a way where it's like, technically everything's free in the game, but the grind that
you have to do
to get it for free is so time intensive that people are like, dude, I can't wait. I'll spend the money to get it now. And that goes to what the human psyche is, that instant gratification. They know that that's a weakness we have as a species, that we want things now. And that's why I think everything is going to primarily go digital eventually. We're not going to wait for Amazon to deliver it the following morning. And if the delivery is late, we're going to go ballistic. We want to play it at midnight instantly. We want it instant. You know, there's always going to be people that want the physical media, you know, but it's just our psyche, man. It's like we want it now. We want things like instantaneously, convenience,
right,
ease of use, you know. And I make the big point where I don't think they're no longer going to be. This is a different topic. I'm just going to touch on it. They're no longer going to be restricted to the console processing power. Once they have the infrastructure in place where these developers can say, okay, we have $1 million computers we develop our games on. They have supercomputers. And then when Sony and Microsoft and say, okay, you designed the game on your $1 million computers, you have to now tweak it to the processing capabilities of our console. They have to strip away a lot of stuff because like this is too intense for this machine to run it. It may crash the system. It may not even run. On our supercomputers, we could do it. And now, when you remove that limitation, be like, all you need is the infrastructure in place. You need that up-down bandwidth. You need the low latency. Now, people are going to be like, oh, not only can I play the best games, but I can play exactly how the developer intended to. I can log on, and now I'm basically playing a game that's developed on a multi-million-dollar computer. I have no graphical limitations. The only limitations I have is my internet infrastructure. But once I have that fiber optic system set up, low latency, I get to play. Imagine playing like, it's going to come to the point where we may start playing real people. They got the AI, they got deepfake. Deepfake came out years ago.
Yeah, it did.
You know, they have the technology, but they don't have the ability to actually transpose that into physical media and be like, and the processing limitations of the PS5 and the X series, you know. So eventually it's going to get to that point. But that was just a little tangent I went off on.
You know, and that's really good information too. You know, seeing it all from different perspectives on what this all may look like, in the coming future. So. Jeannie says you had sound issues. No, what I was saying was we had sound issues earlier on in the stream. If we're still having sound issues now, please let us know if we need to turn up the volume or we need to speak louder. We'll definitely do that. PE says, I think Halo won't be Daddy's boy.
What is that?
He says I don't think Halo won't be Daddy's boy anymore. And Halo's pressure will calm down because COD become the new money maker. And, he's right. He's right because I think if anyone can let us know how much it was, but Call of Duty makes a lot of freaking money.
Yeah.
Okay? And I don't know if Jim Ryan actually said this, but I heard Jim Ryan, I heard through the grapevine that there was a statement made that Call of Duty was funding Sony's first parties games. So if Call of Duty was making that much money, and that's why the reason Sony went after Microsoft because of Call of Duty,
could be, yeah.
Then that could be the two pieces of the puzzle coming together. Like, then that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I agree with your PE on that. COD is that moneymaker, and we're gonna keep saying it over and over and over again. It makes business sense for Microsoft to keep Call of Duty on the Sony platform. So,
and I think right now, that's not to say, like, again, in the future, they may not have the leverage yet to strong arm the consumers, or to say, like, well, no, Sony, sorry, we own it now, you can't use it. Will it reach that point where they've bought enough developers to say, oh, you know what, everything now is going to be on Game Pass exclusively? I think these are just the beginning stages of how they're positioning themselves to how the industry is going to evolve. It's just going to be interesting what's it going to be like 10, 20 years. When our kids grow up to be our ages, it's going to be like, man, I'm saying I'm ready for give me Ready Player One, but without the apocalypse.
Yes.
Yeah, don't give me Terminator with Ready Player One. I don't want to be living in a dystopian society, that people are fighting for scraps of food, and then they go home and put on a virtual reality suit. I want to escape my current reality, not a dystopian reality. So get me ready. I'm ready for Ready Player One technology, but yeah, don't give me the Skynet version.
But I'm telling you, man, and I'm gonna digress. I mean, when you have the top dogs coming out talking about the dangers of AI.
Yeah.
Actually, we was watching. Me and the missus was watching.
I'm gonna use the bathroom real quick.
Yeah, we're gonna take
it going.
Yeah, so we're just gonna step away real quick. If you have any questions, please, just go all the way around, past the stairs, right around the corner. So what do you guys think so far? Is he making a lot of some sense here? What's been going on, and also the state of gaming. Please join the conversation. I appreciate you guys for coming in and sitting down and listening to us, talk about this and hearing it from a different perspective. Again, I appreciate Genie 152. I appreciate you letting him out the house. I know you have him on lock and key sometimes, and congratulations to you on the new addition to the family, and I hope you guys are doing well. And but I have to say, man, it's been a roller coaster ride. Hearing it from his the thinker's perspective, it does shed some light on some things that I was thinking about, and it makes sense. And again, I value you guys' opinions. I value you guys' thoughts around this whole thing. And D-Night says, I think if Sony does that with factions like Call of Duty and GTA, they will have if they're able to, now with factions, even though we haven't heard much on factions yet, I really hope that's the case. If we can actually get something in that realm, close to Call of Duty with factions, that'd be great. GTA is multi-plat, so if Sony can do something with GTA, I don't know what they would do with GTA. I mean, it's not theirs. But GTA will be big. But it will benefit both platforms. So PE has a question for us both. D-Night says, great podcast. Thank you. I appreciate you guys coming through. So if you're just joining, just having a discussion around the state of gaming and where we think it may be heading in the future, and also touched on the ABK deal with Microsoft and also Sony signing a deal for Call of Duty. as you can see, you just walk back in. The thinker, he's here. He's thinking right now. So don't think too hard. I told him not to think too hard. He's gonna blow some brain cells. You know, we need his perspective, right? So we need him here. Jeannie says the app games makes you wait and see commercials to get the upgrades or move up in level.
Commercials, right. Yeah, she plays one of those puzzle games.
Yes. So, you're talking about the mobile games, right?
Yeah, the mobile games.
Yeah, I hate that too. You know, like.
And then if like you want to bypass it, I'm sure you got to spend money on coins and stuff.
Yes, there are in some games where they will prompt you if you don't want to have ads or commercials, then you have to.
Yeah, everything is
pay extra.
They're not, nothing's free in life.
And the dogs are having a good time up there, so I don't know what's going on. But okay. PE has a question. He says, if COD was exclusive, would it affect Xbox or not, and why? Yes. If COD was exclusive, and I believe the thinker touched on this earlier, if it was exclusive to the Xbox, then they would lose out on revenue. They would lose out. That's just the way I see it, because of the simple fact that we all know that it performs well on the PlayStation console.
Yeah.
The Call of Duty gamer base is huge. It's a lot bigger on the PlayStation console. So if they make it exclusive to the Xbox, they're gonna lose.
Yeah, they're just burning money.
They're gonna lose out. So
it makes no business sense for them to just go strong arm tactic right off the jump and say this is now Xbox exclusive only. You're alienating millions of players. Like, that's not going to make all the Sony people that only have PlayStation now say, oh yeah, let me go out and spend $400 on an Xbox just so I can play my Call of Duty. Because as we touched on before, gamers are like petty, man. They're not gonna like, and that's just with any consumer. They're not gonna say, no, you can't force me to buy a new console just to play this one game.
Okay, so then the question again. Did you have a follow-up question, or did you ask a question earlier? Well, we don't know the context of the contract that was signed by Sony and Microsoft. But before that, Microsoft was willing to make Call of Duty day and date.
Mm-hmm.
And I think PlayStation Plus or whatever the case may be. Now, Game Pass, I think the prices went up on it now. I forgot the new prices for it. You don't have to spend $70. It's going to be in Game Pass day one. So that's $70 right there. If the game does not come into PlayStation Plus or Premium or whatever the case may be, then the PlayStation gamers will have to spend $70.
Right.
Or sign up for Game Pass for $17 a month. I mean, $17 or whatever the price is.
That requires the console, though, right?
No.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, because Game Pass is not on the console. It's on PC.
Oh, okay.
There's other
but still,
platforms that you can get.
What is... let me ask you this. Can you access Game Pass through PlayStation?
No. It's only one that happens.
There's a lot of gamers, they don't have gaming PCs. They may only have a PlayStation. You see what I'm saying? So that can still be a significant enough consumer base to not like alienate them, to say now this is exclusive to Game Pass. You may be cutting off a lot of consumers that don't even have access to your product now. Right. I'm sure they restructured the deal. As far as like the deal just came out today, we don't know the details of it. And that's not public. First of all, that's not public information. That's between two private companies. Well, not private. It's they're public companies because they're traded on the stock market. But as far as like looking at their contracts between each other, like the general public doesn't have access to that. If they want to release press releases to say this is how we restructured it, that's fine. But from my experience, I'm fairly confident that they restructured the deal where then Sony's not going to get as high of a cut of the proceeds for putting it on their platform because now Microsoft owns it. And I mean, that's just like logical. That's logical. They're not going to keep the same deal they had with Activision prior to the acquisition to say, oh yeah, you're still going to make the same amount of money.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
What makes sense?
You're going to make money, but you're not going to make the same amount because we own it. Because the line, to the line gets to the winner goes the spoils, as they say. The line is going to get the bigger share. Microsoft doesn't spend $69 billion to tell Sony, oh, by the way, this is not going to affect your bottom line. So you're our main you're one of our direct competitors. They're going to take a hit, but on the same token, they can't directly pull it exclusively because then Microsoft is also going to take a hit. They're not that stupid.
Exactly. So I got a question for you. Before I ask that, let me go ahead and ask the question because it's tied into this. To yourself in the chat, do you think right now we're getting close to the top of the hour?
6:30.
Well, not the top of the hour, but we've been running for almost 2 hours now.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep him.
I got grapes. I got grapes to eat.
He has grapes to go eat. But now that Microsoft has acquired Call of Duty, let's say Call of Duty. Let's say if that was the case, Call of Duty was funding Sony's first party, right? Do you think that will be the reason why Sony is now pushing these live service games to fill that void?
They're definitely looking at any way to maximize their revenue stream. They have to. It's again, I bring up like the Netflix. They got caught with like they based their whole business model on like the content that other people made.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what their business model was. They provided the distribution of the accessibility to the home consumer. We'll mail you these movies. They weren't making original Netflix movies at that time, but now now everything is like Netflix, the comedy specials. Now they got multi-million-dollar blockbuster movies. What was that? That got freaking Thor. Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
They just made a new movie. They're getting big name actors spending a lot of money. This is Netflix in-house, but they're spending so much money because they started too late. Because all the big movie companies, they were like, Warner Brothers, Paramount, Disney, they were like, no, we don't want our stuff on your platform anymore. We're going to make our own thing. Mm-hmm. Now, Sony's looking at that like, don't fall victim to what happened to Netflix. You got to like create most of your in-house original stuff now that's going to be self-funded. Don't rely on these other third-party developers to create these games that are making you money, because if Microsoft then buys them and now you're subsidizing your in-house product, Netflix is bleeding money on this stuff to try to retain their subscribership. So now imagine Sony's position when they can no longer rely on the third-party developers and say, damn, we gotta now most of our AAA stuff has to come in-house. But again, a lot of it is the talent acquisition. Because think about it. If the studios that are being bought up, if their talent wasn't that successful and Sony's was top tier shelf, and what Microsoft is buying is like mid-tier, who cares? Because if Sony has the top talent that are consistently producing AAA titles, that are making millions and millions of dollars, then that's one thing, but they're not. Microsoft is going after the games that constantly make money. Like you said before, Sony has better like story-driven games, like as far as like their top-tier games. But as far as like games that constantly generate money, that's why Microsoft saw that that's the smart play to do it. You know, but I think eventually it's going to evolve into, it's no longer be like console wars. I think it's going to evolve into something where just consumers are going to have universal access. They're going to be able to pick their own controller, and they're going to everything I think is going to be more subscription based. Yeah, I think I see physical media eventually going away, just because from a distribution side, it costs too much money. You got to have warehouses, manufacturing, machines, like waste. You got like the EPA involved, because like the Blu-rays are not biodegradable. So like you have all these things that affect just that one decision to say, let's consistently start making physical media games. And then you got the point where people are going to want it now, instant gratification. Digital takes up really no space. You have mega servers, mega hard drives, terabytes of information. It takes up no space. You may have one office that can house all the games in the world. You know? So eventually I think it's going to go towards that. It's not going to be, I think it's going to go towards like you can, like how do you watch Netflix? You have Roku, you have a smart TV, you have a smartphone, anything. These are not specific like, oh, in order to watch Netflix, I must get the Samsung phone. In order to play this game, I must get a PS whatever. It's not, I don't think it's going to be the way other industries have evolved. It's just going to make sense where it's just going to be a universal device or many devices where as long as it gives you access to the subscription service. So like look at you said Game Pass.
Game Pass, right?
You can access it. You don't need an Xbox. There you go. They're already showing you their business model. You don't need an Xbox to have Game Pass. They're already looking at it from a digital, a technologically digital evolutionary standpoint. Why am I gonna say in order to utilize our subscription service that's digital, you have to buy this piece of hardware exclusively? That's not a good business model. You want as many people to have access to that digital subscription service. Because the great thing is that you want players to be able to play anywhere in the world. When I go on a flight and I go to stay in a hotel, I want to be able to log in. All I got to do is bring a controller with me. That takes up this much space in your luggage.
Exactly.
Instead of bringing your PlayStation or your Xbox, taking it out, going through the freaking airport thing, all I got to do is take this thing. And by that time, I'm sure it's going to be foldable. Take this, I could probably put it in my pocket, unfold it, go to my hotel, log into my subscription service, and and just start playing. Pick up right where I left off at home. That's the way it's gonna be that way. It's just we currently don't have the infrastructure for it.
All right, so Pete says in the question again, then it would not be about games anymore, but rather loyalty to the brand. So if we go back, we answer the question: if COD was exclusive, would it affect Xbox or not, and why? So we gave our answer to that, and he said the question again: then it would not be about games anymore, but rather loyalty to the brand.
I'm a little confused of what you're trying to get at, P. But as far as brand loyalty, I also look at it like, do you only watch movies or TV shows that are created by a specific movie house? No. If the movie is good, you're going to watch it. Like I may not be a supporter of Disney, the company itself, but they still produce Marvel movies, and once in a while I like to watch a Marvel movie. You know, so if it evolves to a point where I don't think it's going to be like this, like I said earlier in the stream, I think it's going to evolve. We're not going to have like these fanboys. It's not going to be like, oh, you're an Xbox fanboy, you're a PlayStation fanboy. It's that everyone's going to have access to all the games. It's just a matter of like spending money on the subscription service that has access to those games that you want to play.
Right.
So like I may only like one thing that Disney makes, which is like the Marvel movies, but is that enough for me to get like a subscription to the Disney app? I don't know. Maybe if I want to say, you know what, I'll just buy 1 month of this, play it or watch it, whatever, and then once I beat it, then cancel my subscription. So the brand loyalty, I don't think is going to be an issue. It's not going to be like this Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo fanboy stuff anymore. And then this is down the line. We still have it in today's climate because we still have consoles, right? But eventually, I think it's going to go away.
Okay, he says, I believe it's about games. If Sony rejected the deal, that will worry PS, PlayStation, and also sway those are diehard COD to move to Xbox. I mean, yes, I would agree to the extent of some. I wouldn't say all diehards, but I would say some diehard fans from the Sony side will move over to the X. Well, not the, I don't even want to say Xbox. I'll just say Game Pass, because Game Pass is where the value is, right? So they're probably subscribed. So let's say if Sony rejected the Call of Duty deal, they don't want it, right? So that means Call of Duty is not on PlayStation anymore. Done deal. Mm-hmm. So now it's exclusive to Xbox. We gave you the opportunity to take the deal, but you didn't take it. So now PlayStation gamers are diehards, are pissed off. They're mad now. They're like, man, I want to play Call of Duty, and the only way I can play Call of Duty is either Xbox or subscribe to Game Pass. So yes, I agree with you. I think some of those diehards would go over if they like to play Call of Duty, they and they still want to play it. Yes, I think some would go over. There are some diehards that just say, the H with it then,
I think he sums it up at the last comment. It's
I asked if COD becomes exclusive, would it affect them? And you said yes.
I think what we were talking about earlier, where if it became exclusive now, both sides would be losing money. So they're not going to make it exclusive. There's no point in that.
Yeah, and if I read your question correctly, you asked if COD was exclusive, would it affect Xbox or not?
Yeah, they would be losing. They wouldn't be making as much money if they made it exclusive.
Right. I mean, Xbox will be losing out. And we talked about this in streams past too, and I brought it up and I said, hey, it would make business sense if Microsoft keep Call of Duty on the PlayStation. So you saying that it won't? You saying that it doesn't make business sense? Or it won't affect Xbox at all?
I don't know if he was responding to what I just said, where I said if they made it exclusive, Microsoft will be losing money. They wouldn't be making as much money. How do I know that? Because they made the deal today. I mean, come on. They wouldn't go into a deal with Sony if they could make as much money themselves by making it exclusive. Just by them going into the deal with Sony means that there's more money to be made by keeping it on Sony.
What's your thought about that, PE? We'll make that the last thought, for this podcast. So to think, I really appreciate you coming by and hanging out with your boy.
Yeah, we got to do this more often.
Exactly, man. And we got to get some, some of that comedy stuff. And we got to do some acting.
Some acting?
Get some people.
That costs.
So I got to pay you.
That costs.
Man, I gotta write up a contract.
I want super chat rebates.
Oh my goodness! And I know Jeannie she's going to side with you. She was like, yeah, you got to pay that man. You know what I'm saying? I got to let him off the hook. So he can come over so he can make money. He's not gonna be coming over there for free. All right, I'll draft up a contract.
Yeah, we can do some skits. You're the creative mind. I don't know. I'll try my best. I can't act for shit.
We'll work something out. We'll work something out where it fits you. that it comes off.
She said, make
that money. Let's go. So, Jeannie, thank you for letting him out the house. I really appreciate it. But I'm gonna let him go. And
let's try to address PE's.
So, PE says, "Cause if it's about loyalty brand, then it affects Xbox. But if it's about games, then I side with not going to affect Xbox."
Let me try to read it. Because if it is about loyalty brand, then it affects Xbox. But if it's about games, then it will not affect them. I'm not really following what you're trying to say. All I'm saying is, if Microsoft decided to make Call of Duty exclusive to the Xbox, they would be losing money. Not to say losing money, but they wouldn't be making as much money by making it exclusive. How do we know that? Because they got into the deal with Sony. The proof is they wouldn't have allowed Call of Duty to continue on PlayStation if they didn't see a monetary benefit to that, right? So to say, like, if they made it exclusive, will they make money on it? Yes, because if that's to say the only place to play Call of Duty is on Microsoft, you have a specific portion of the current players that only play on Xbox. So you're not going to lose them because that is what they're currently playing on. Say, for argument's sake, it's 50-50. Say you have half the Call of Duty players that play on PlayStation and half the Call of Duty players that play on Xbox. And out of both of those players, they only own each console. This is just for argument's sake. This is just to make the math easier. And now Microsoft comes along and says, okay, 50% of the people that play Call of Duty, they don't own an Xbox. They play the game, but they don't own the Xbox. And if we make it exclusive, we're going to be losing out on all that revenue, assuming that they're not going to be strong-armed into buying an Xbox just to play this one game.
Right.
Or they could say, you know what? Let's keep it on PlayStation, because even though we still can make money making it exclusive, we can make more money by keeping it on PlayStation. Now, they're going to probably restructure the deal with Sony to say, oh, you whatever the percentage of was for like profits by allowing that game to be played on your platform, just for argument's sake, say it was at 40%. Now they may come back and say, oh, you're only going to get 25% of the profits. Sony is going to be like, Sony will happily take any deal, because that's just like, well, why are we going to say no for having no access, which is $0, or we can at least get some access and make some money.
Some money, right.
And on the flip side, Microsoft is looking at the same way. Why only take 50% of the profits or the revenue when we can get not 100% because you still have to share it with Sony, but it's going to be a restructured deal. But instead of saying, well, why only make 50% of the revenue for this game where we can now make 70%, whatever it is.
30 or 80,
right.
20.
So they're doing it just for money. You know, they're not going to. Oh, okay.
All right. So he's gonna explain it further. Thank you. I really appreciate that. PE. D Knight says digital is the way to go. I have both PlayStation Plus and Game Pass, but when I play Game Pass, I just grab my Xbox controller, turn on my LG C1, let's go, hit the web, and I don't even turn on my Xbox half the time. And that's what we were talking about earlier when you have the Game Pass app. Now, there are some select Samsung TVs that has the app.
Oh, see, there you go.
That has the app.
If the TVs are already making this built in, it's just going to be the same business model as Netflix and Disney and Paramount. Smart TVs. You just have an app. You even on your phone. You have it on the phone. Imagine. Now, this is what I told JK the other day. Imagine, right, the power of next gen or the latest graphical game, right? Because believe it or not, cell phone screens are better than TV screens. The resolution on these is better than a TV. Now imagine being like waiting in a doctor's room, right? And you have, at that time, maybe they've developed something smaller than this that you're able to put in your pocket.
Well, before you continue, you do know they are coming out with the PlayStation Q project.
Yeah, I saw that.
You saw that? Okay, go ahead.
But I'm talking about all right, I could watch Netflix on my TV at home on a 65-inch TV, or I could watch Netflix here waiting, if I'm in the doctor's office. This actually has better resolution than an OLED. Now, if you're waiting there, all you got to do is bring out your phone, go to your app, have your, set it up, put it down, and even though it's a smaller screen, whatever, but having the ability to just go log into an app, log into the developer servers, take out your little controller, and start playing the game on your cell phone, because it's the same deal. If you have a good internet connection that has low latency, what's to stop you from just subscribing to an app and logging into any smart device anywhere you go?
Yeah,
that's it. All you need is the controller. You need some kind of interface that allows you to input, whatever that's going to evolve into, who knows. And you can, oh man, I got to pause my game. Say you're playing on your big screen TV at home. I got to pause my game. I got a doctor's appointment. No problem. Go to your doctor's appointment. Pick up right where you left off. Just like as I'm watching Netflix or Disney or HBO Max, whatever I have, I just pause the movie on my TV, go to wherever I got to go into my library, click play. It starts up right where I left off. It's going to evolve into that. I'm telling you. You see it already happening in other sectors. Again, the limiting issue we have is the infrastructure. Because everything right now is one-way information download. Everything is being sent one way for downloading. But now when you have gaming, you need the latency and the upload side. So that's where the limitations of the infrastructure come in. But give it time. It'll come to fruition eventually.
And D-Night said that's like xCloud.
xCloud?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and like.
Yeah, we're seeing the beginning stages of it, and with this acquisition, that's just another part of the puzzle.
Right.
To support their business model for the future.
And Phil Spencer did say that he's like this. This acquisition will help accelerate what.
Yeah, it's not about.
Trying to do so.
It's about everyone's trying to position themselves to corner the market to get. Basically, everyone's just trying to get the largest slice of the pie. There's a pie. The laws, the monopoly and antitrust laws are in place where a bully can't come into the dinner table and just push everyone out the way and say, I'm taking the whole pie. I'm going to eat the whole pie. The government comes in and says, no, that's not fair. You may get a bigger piece of the pie, but allow other people to get a smaller slice. Everyone has to kind of be able to put their hand in the cookie jar. So Microsoft is just positioning themselves. They're looking at it like, okay, we can't win the console war era, or we can't win the console war point of the business. But that's really not where the money is made. Because again, those are slim margins. The consoles are bringing you in to play those games. Mm-hmm. The big money is not in the sale of the consoles. And I think even Sony came out and said we barely make money on the PS5 because the technology is so expensive. The manufacturing is so expensive. They don't really make much. Their profit margins are very slim on the console itself.
Got you. We went from 8-track to tape to CD to MP3 to digital. Now it's the cloud. It's coming. It's coming. We talked about this, D-Nice. It's coming. So again, what are we gonna wake up to tomorrow? Man, I can't even get my own slogan out. What are we gonna wake up to tomorrow? I still messed that up. Dang.
Tomorrow we got work tomorrow.
Yeah, I know we got to work. I know we got to work tomorrow. I know we got to go into work.
We got to pay these bills so we can buy the games.
So we can pay bills.
Yeah, we got to work
buy
to
games,
play the games. That's what it is.
Well, I'm hoping to wake up to come Tuesday morning, wake up to a $900 million lottery win. That's what I'm.
Oh, so
man, $900 million, guys. Get your lottery tickets, guys. If you do play the lottery, Mega Millions.
Hey, if you win, you can develop that first Ready Player One suit.
Yes. No, that's gonna cost too much money, man. That's, I don't know.
Yeah,
Dude, we can go into business. Let's think about that.
Right.
Let's think about Ready Player One, man. Hey, again, thank you guys for joining the Gaming Interactions podcast. I'd like to once again thank the thinker for coming by and giving his perspective on the state of gaming and where it's headed. So, PE, if we don't get your further explanation, don't worry about it, man. We'll catch you again on another stream. So I appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Hope you guys had a great weekend and preparing yourself for this week. And hopefully,
Jeannie, if you're still in the chat, I'll be home in about 40 minutes. Please have my food warm. Thank you. What do you like? I'm sorry that you don't got it like that, Pat.
I don't have it like that. I don't have it like that at all. Let me go.
I know she's gonna say I ate it. I knew it. I knew she could say something smart.
Yeah, but he said it right before you put it in. Oh my goodness! So that's good. You guys know each other. That's a beautiful thing. I'm still getting to know my wife after what, 20 years? Nah, I'm just messing. I'm just messing. But I wish I had it like you. I want to grow up and be just like you, man. I tell you.
We're the same age.
Dude, you know. Exactly.
I want to be like Mike.
Exactly, man. This guy here, I tell you. All right, guys. Have a great one, and we'll see you in the next podcast.
Should we do the Puli salute? Left hand. Fingers open. Hey, Sebastiani still in this?
Hey, Sebastiani, you still here? Probably.
This is the Sebastiani salute.
Sebastiani salute. I'm like, I don't know what Marika. He's gonna kill us, man. He's like, dude, y'all put that in there, y'all stop playing. Yeah, PE, have a good one, man. You said you had to cancel. Don't worry about it. We'll hook up again in another stream. All right, take care, guys. See you in the next one.
That was cool. Oh, very good. Thank you.